In my letter dated March 2nd, 2020, I warned the former Prime Minister Bouffier, pointing out how the public prosecutor's offices in Hesse systematically refuse to investigate money laundering at the Sparkasvolde, that he will have to bear political responsibility if he fails to fulfill his official duties and also tolerates money laundering. In Season 2, Episode 1, I showed how the death of the Hessian Minister of Finance Schäfer is probably not due to the challenges of the corona pandemic, but rather to the fact that the Hessian Minister of Finance was responsible for losses from speculative bets. The simultaneous death of his employee could not be explained otherwise. When the Hessian Prime Minister Bouffier resigned from his office, he apparently lied a second time when he claimed to be resigning for reasons of age and health. His unelected successor, Mr. Boris Rhein, was therefore forewarned when I also asked him in my letter of June 13, 2022 to throw light on money laundering at the Sparkasvolde. This letter went unanswered. As soon as I have the business data from Wirecard, I told him in my letter dated July 7, 2022 that I would also search it for him, and warned Mr. Rhein once again to clarify on the money laundering at Sparkasvolde. As a former Interior Minister, Mr. Rhein is not only familiar with the systematic extortion of protection money by the German judiciary, given his connections to the Hells Angels, he has probably also benefited from it. When I informed Mr. Rhein on June 13, 2022 that I would hold him accountable, like his predecessor, for corruption in the Hessian judiciary, I pointed out to him that he had no official recourse against me because I already fled abroad, with the expectation that the European heads of state and government would not jump to his side, since they were regularly informed by me about the developments of my investigative work. I recommend Mr. Rhein to send his friends, the Hells Angels, to silence me down. As it turned out 6 months later, I had been wrong in my expectations. Under file number 22 CS, 330 J's 23,232 18ths, the Regional Court of Fulda is asked on January 1, 2022 to issue a statement on what has caused the coincidence that a court hearing for alleged removal from the scene of the accident is scheduled against me, 1 week after my petition to deny Germany as location for ANLA was rejected. The close temporal connection between these allegations from 2018 and the discontinuation of my petition, which relates to money laundering at Sparkasvolde, must be understood in such a way that the Fulda Public Prosecutor's Office saw the rejection of the petition as a license to retaliate against me. After I was able to prove corruption and nepotism to the judiciary in Fulda, and I fled from that particular corrupt public prosecutor's office, among other things, it was clear to the Fulda Public Prosecutor's Office that I would not appear at this court appointment. My request for a statement on the allegations went unanswered. After it could not be proved that I was involved in the accident in question, and one could not show me the requested blood alcohol test of the obviously drunk driver, I was instead convicted of driving without a license. This is interesting because the validity of my EEC driving license was never questioned. Until 2017, the validity of my driver's license was never questioned in the course of several police checks. When I got inflicted a damage in an accident in 2017, the police headquarters in East Hesse asked me to prove that my EEC driving license was not an act of circumventing a driver's license ban. To prove that, all necessary documents were submitted to the police headquarters in East Hesse. Since there were no queries about this, the authorities have recognized the validity of my EEC driver's license. In addition to a fine, which was of course paid, the District Court of Fulda sentenced me to hand over my EEC driver's license for 3 months in order to get it back afterwards. On the one hand, this is of course a ruse, because with my EEC driver's license I can drive in any country in the world, except for Germany. In addition to the attempt by the District Court of Hildesheim to cut me off from my financial means while fleeing the corrupt German judiciary, the District Court of Fulda aims to restrict my mobility. Of course, I wouldn't get my driver's license back. On the other hand, the District Court of Fulda confirms with this judgment the accusation of a staged court procedure. If you announce that you will return your driver's license after 3 months, you confirm, ceteris paribus, the validity of the driver's license beforehand. This logically eliminates the original accusation of driving without a license, since the corrupt judiciary in Fulda already had every reason to take revenge on me. Mr. Ryan, unlike Mr. Soder, would not have to interfere in the proceedings to exhaust his possibilities to silence me down. At least I can't prove this to Mr. Ryan, but he will certainly have inquired about the procedure, just as Mr. Soder and his Ministry of the Interior probably did. With reference to the fact that the procedure is being misused, on November 9, 2022, the District Court of Fulda received a request to comment. The District Court of Fulda does not answer. With regard to the proceedings at the District Court of Fulda for alleged driving without a license, another coincidence catches the eye. These proceedings were ended at almost the same time as the proceedings at the District Court in Hildesheim. Before you get the idea of dismissing a connection between these two proceedings as a conspiracy theory, you have to know that the public prosecutors' offices in Germany exchange information with each other via the Central Public Prosecutors Proceedings Register, ZSSTV. This makes it clear that the public prosecutors' offices in Fulda and Hildesheim not only knew about the respective proceedings, but that the convictions were orchestrated. Otherwise, they would not have fallen into such a close chronological sequence. The public prosecutor's office and the courts have pursued the goal of making me appear as a notorious criminal in order to be able to fool foreign governments into having me extradited. In one case, this has already failed. In my letter dated January 15, 2023, I accused the Fulda District Court of pursuing the proceedings against me with a motive for retaliation, and also refer to the complaints procedure at the Hessian Ministry of Justice against the judiciary in Fulda. In view of the many coincidences and the knowledge of the two district courts of each other, the District Court of Fulda is asked to give a statement on that and to state whether the Bavarian Ministry of the Interior has also intervened in the proceedings in Fulda. The District Court of Fulda does not answer, with the reference to money laundering by the German judiciary at Wirecard, to numerous political authorities in Germany, and to the European heads of state and government. This fact was no longer a secret among the members of the investigative committee of the German parliament. When Federal Minister of Justice Buschmann announced on June 25, 2023, that he wanted to confiscate the status symbols of the criminal clans, this not only meant that he was only concerned with skimming off the profits, but also that he approved of the systematic extortion of protection money by the German judiciary and politicians. However, this not only means selling out the rule of law to a corrupt clique of politicians, judges, and public prosecutors, but also that anyone who opposes this will be sanctioned to the maximum. Referring to the staged court proceedings before the District Court of Hildesheim, the Federal Cartel Office announced on December 15, 2022 under the file numbered KLE00025-240 that it had made an entry in the competition register. This is intended to exempt me and my company from the award procedure for public tenders. Despite the fact that I have never received a public contract, I am informing the Federal Cartel Office on February 22, 2023, with reference to my criminal complaint for political persecution against the Bavarian Prime Minister Soder, that the proceedings were staged at the Hildesheim District Court, and that the Federal Cartel Office with its procedure would be aiding and abetting political persecution. Just like this message, my reminder from March 19, 2023 is also not answered. With reference to his publications of March 22, 2021, and July 2, 2021, the State Secretary in the Federal Ministry of Economics, Mr. Giegold, was informed on February 15, 2023 that he revealed himself to be a great advocate of the CRS system, with reference to the fact that this CRS system was misused by the judicial authorities in Hildesheim in order to assist the Bavarian state government in a staged court procedure for political persecution. Mr. Giegold is advised that the CRS system is obviously not equipped with the necessary protective mechanisms against misuse. The request for comment remains unanswered. With the request to resign from office on April 23, 2023, the Federal Minister of Economics was confronted with the request for explanations on his State Secretary and the Federal Cartel Office, who report to him. Their silence does not make the Federal Ministry of Economics look good. The Federal Minister of Economics is referred to his statement of April 3, 2023, according to which it is an unusual measure to grant investment guarantees by the German state for investments in war zones. This begs the question of why this is so interesting to me. The answer is quite easy. Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. It is no longer a secret that under these circumstances, Ukraine has become a global money laundering machine. The country is not just a magnet for subsidy scammers. Due to the war in eastern Ukraine, the country is dependent on support from the German government, among others. The case I have described, that the corrupt German judiciary cannot launder their extorted protection money abroad in order not to become vulnerable to be blackmailed, does not apply to Ukraine. Due to its dependency, the Ukraine cannot claim any blackmail scenario against the German federal government. The minister does not answer. Nevertheless, I insisted on writing to the free riders of these circumstances, and on May 14, 2023, when I asked the PwC, which audits the applications for investment guarantees on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Economics, to explain how they want to check in a war zone that no subsidy fraud was committed when companies like Bayer AG and the Fixit Group apply for compensation payments. PwC did not reply to the letter. With reference to their corporate governance code and ESG commitments, Bayer AG and the Fixit Group were also asked on May 14, 2023 to explain how they intend to ward off the suspicion of subsidy fraud through their investments in one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Both companies have not responded. Since PwC also did not want to reveal who the other companies are that have applied for investment guarantees in Ukraine, it shows that the Federal Ministry of Economics, aware of the fact, also bought the whitewashing business from the Big Four. PwC's pattern of behavior corresponds to that of Ernst & Young in its attestations at Wirecard and apparently also at Sparkus Fulda. It is also clear that Mr. Kuskaya did not understand what his real job at KPMG was. Under the aforementioned circumstances, the question should be answered as to how the unfortunate circumstances could have come about that the public was denied insight into the Wambach report on the conduct of Ernst & Young in the Wirecard audit. Unlike Mr. Soder, who could deny complicity when he always sent his interior minister ahead of his messes, Mr. Rhine, as the former interior minister of Hesse, just as much as his predecessor Bouffier, cannot use this excuse for himself. Not only because he has already attracted attention with his connections to the Frankfurt train station district, but rather because the interior ministries are the coordination centers for the corrupt state criminal investigation offices. When I demand Mr. Rhine's resignation on April 9, 2023, I refer to my letter to the Fulda District Court of January 15, 2023, and point out to Mr. Rhine that, knowing the circumstances, he will tolerate the political persecution that has been inflicted on me. The message went unanswered.